Everybody. It's not often that I have a guest back on my show twice, but everybody loved the show I did with Christine Lang so much, and she has so much to share with us. They were having her back again. So without further ado, Christine, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. I love our conversations.
Yeah, we've become friends in the meantime. We resonate with each other very nicely, and
Very
we
nicely.
understand who we really are as souls. Uh, You are a medical intuitive. Are there any other words you use to describe yourself?
Soul channel, I will also use and you are as well, right? Anybody who can channel multiple souls and beings, I think is a soul channel, but I use that term for clarity as well.
Well, I love how you work when you ask permission from someone's soul before you look into their issues.
Yes, yes. Even if I'm working with a wife and she says, well, see if my husband's foot is really broken. I always have to say, well, we have to ask your husband if I can connect to his spirit. Cause I feel like it's invading somebody's privacy to just have this ability, and you have to have ethics and integrity with these abilities.
And then you talk to the husband's soul.
Yes, yes. And each of my clients, I speak to my spirit as well as their spirit. And most of what I channel comes from their spirit, but my spirit might get involved. Say, it's like that movie you saw last week. She might help me out if I'm not getting a reference that somebody else's spirit is making. And occasionally somebody's will have a guide that comes in too, and gives a kind of a higher lesson on a topic as well.
Right. You give so many beautiful examples of this in your book of how you help people with issues that your spirit working with their spirit just nails the issue right off the bat and gets right to clarity.
Yeah. Well, and I'm super impatient, and so I think I like to go to the core of things. And we spend a lot of time in Western medicine, kind of that palliative care on the surface of minimizing our symptoms. And I really want to get to the emotional base of a symptom. And it might be 25% of what's going on, or it might be 100% of what's going on. Right? A lot of stomach upset and digestive stuff tends to be emotion based, as well as irritable bowel and all that kind of stuff, and really have strong emotional components. So to get to a curative effect quickly is going into the emotional disturbances that we store there in that part of our body.
Well, this leads me into a topic that I thought we were going to talk about second, but it's
Okay.
perfect right now. And my wonderful friend Lynette, and the podcast producer, doesn't mind us talking about her, but she came to you after seeing the show and editing the show for you and brought an issue she's been having for a long time with her wrist. And it was really bothering her because she thought that something was wrong with her, something was going wrong. She's doing something wrong to cause this pain, and she couldn't get her away from it. And you showed her it wasn't her fault. And that was so freeing for her. So I'd love to just expand on this whole topic of bringing stuff on ourselves, or maybe it's coming from another life or something else. Take that away.
I think that we're so used to focusing on sort of law of attraction and resonance, which is a very real thing. And our attitude and our thoughts and our beliefs absolutely help create our reality. But there's things like getting in a serious car accident that most people aren't walking around holding a belief. I bet I get in a car accident on Wednesday, and yet it still happens. And then they start blaming themselves of, oh, I must have negative thoughts. I must have this. And my spirit long ago said, your soul incarnated to experience being a creator here. And then you get to experience being a creator with your ego mind as well. And roughly 50% of what you experience is a result of your thoughts and your beliefs and what we think of as law of attraction. The other 50% is your soul getting to experience being a creator as well. And so your spirit can arrange for you to meet that perfect teacher. Your spirit can arrange for you to have that favorite high school teacher because she knew it would light you up about English. And those sort of magical moments. Either you meet somebody and you go, oh, I know I don't like her. Sure enough, she turns out to steal from the company, right? Or you meet somebody right away, you're like, I'm going to be good friends with her, right? And we had this sort of wisp of an intuitive hit of what our spirit already has planned. And so when somebody comes to me with an event that's upsetting to them, or a symptom that's really troubling, one of the first things I say is this spirit created or mind created? Is how the person is dealing with it with their emotions, or how much of it is something that the soul is in control of? And if the soul is in control of it and it's something they've brought on, then my next question is, what do you want to get out of this? So for instance, cancer. People think, oh, I must have done something wrong. I got cancer. And I'm like, no, it is always soul's journey. And I will ask in the beginning, what things are you hoping to get out of this? There's obviously multiple lessons. The first thing is it's usually a case study in fear, right? And how you interact with fear and how you let people help you and nurture you. And so those sorts of things, car accidents are frequently about people getting to help us and us relying on people. And sometimes it's about meeting the great physical therapist that you became friends with forever, all these different situations that have happened to my clients as a result of things that they never would have thought about, let alone work to create. And so I think having that understanding can be really freeing for us because we tend to look at things like a puzzle, like a math problem. If I do all the right steps, I'll be rewarded with the result I want. I'll get the A on the paper. And so people come to me and say, I've worked on this IBS for so many years, or I've worked on this frozen shoulder. I've seen 10 different practitioners and I've had this and that. And I must still be doing something wrong because I haven't yet gotten the result I want. And that's such a shame and blame towards oneself approach that it really shuts down the body's ability to heal too.
So what about people that once they understand that it's a soul thing and they still have the pain? What happens?
And then I would say you can do automatic writing or meditation, journaling and prayer. Use these tools to try to get the messages to know how you can best help yourself. Right. I'm never going to, with a client, try to block what their spirit is doing, but I certainly want to relieve their pain while they're going through it, which is what we're able to do with Lynette. We're not interfering with what's happening on her soul's choice, but I could create a space of energy where then she doesn't have to feel the pain.
Yeah. In her case, you pinpointed by talking to her spirit, a past life where she had injured this wrist.
It's actually a simultaneous life, which is a little more confusing.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
Yeah. And where she was jousting and taking all this impact to her wrist. And in that lifetime, loved doing it, was somewhat of a celebrity athlete at it and was not about to give it up for a little bit of pain. And so it was going to continue. And so sometimes you can separate out energetically and put some space in between lifetimes, especially ones that are concurrent, and bring that relief.
Wow. You made with her a distinction between being healed and being cured. Very interesting.
Well, and I think when people think they're cured, it's almost like now you're forgiven. Whatever you did wrong has been erased, right? And you'll never have those symptoms again. And healing is recognizing what your soul might have wanted out of it. So there are people who I have a client who has a type of blood cancer. She still has the cancer, but she's labeled as in remission. And she says, I might not be cured, but I'm healed. I don't experience symptoms. I have to take this daily medication, and I understand all the reasons my spirit brought me on this journey, and I get it. And there's a surrender that isn't giving up. It's just acceptance of like, I get it. It brought my husband and I closer. It brought my daughter and I closer. We moved to a better house that we always wanted to live in. Like all of these things came about because of that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it was a wake-up call for her.
And with Lynette, she said she was wire brushing herself. That's her term, that I've brought this on myself and I should be able to heal it. And she says she has been healed, but it's of the angst and thinking that it should be something other than it is.
Right. Right. And now she has told me that if she gets like a slight little twinge in her wrist, she laughs and goes, I wish I was riding a horse and jousting right now. I love that idea. Yeah. So I think it's just relating to it differently. And that's being healed.
Yes.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Any other things we need to talk about before we move into a separate area there?
Well, I would just say that if you have a symptom you don't like or a life circumstance you don't like, notice when you feel trapped with it, or if you feel like I still have to get the magic formula to get the results I want. Because sometimes, like Lynette says, you're punishing yourself or you're withholding happiness because you still think you're the kid getting it wrong, right? You're the kid in math class who can't figure out that math problem, and we'll shame and blame ourselves. And it really does sort of shut the body down and limits our healing capacity in general and amplifies pain, right, when we're doing that. So we can get and seek to have that understanding of how much of this can I control and how much of it is moving into acceptance and moving with it. And
I love the recommendation there that we're always telling people, ask higher consciousness, what else do I need to know about this? Right. That's always changing.
Yes. Yeah, and you can sit in meditation, whatever style of meditation you like, and bring your awareness to that part of the body and say, what message do you have for me?
Yeah.
And people are always amazed that, oh my God, I actually heard something, right?
Mhm.
Or they go turn on the music in their car 10 minutes later and a song comes on and the first line of it is like the exact answer to their
Oh,
symptom, right? I mean, I have
yeah.
all those stories of clients who are like, wow, the universe really does respond.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the other day, just some issue dealing with my husband and I, we were dealing with something, and on comes James Taylor singing, "Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel." And I'm like, that's it right
That's
there.
it. There's the answer.
Yeah, good stuff. So let's talk about energy and love, and do we need to protect ourselves from other people's energy when we're dissonant?
I think so. And maybe we shouldn't even use the word protect, but out of simplicity, I'm going to. I think that, like you say, that word dissonant is perfect. Sometimes we don't resonate with people. Either they're more alarmist than we are, they're more negative than we are that day, and we just feel discordant, right? And there are some people that are just more negative to the point of feeling kind of toxic. But also situations, like if you go into a hospital, even if people aren't trying to be negative, they're scared. And so that vibration, feels like rubbing a cat the wrong way, right? It's very prickly. And so I think being able to shield yourself from energy, your listeners are all energetically sensitive people, right? They're older souls. They tend to be energetically sensitive. So that's just part of good energy hygiene, like you talk about in your book, right? So that good energy hygiene is being careful about what you're exposing yourself to. When I meditated right before we started, and I asked your spirit and mine, like, okay, what do we want to talk about? And your spirit said, people can feel better. People have more control over how they feel than they think they do.
Mm,
And I was like, okay, that's fair point. And then my spirit said, yeah, talk about how you're able to conduct or move the energy around you and within your body.
let's do it.
Okay, so when we were in high school, most of us, we learned that you can flip energy from positive to negative, right? And I can't even remember if it's an electron and then it goes from positive to negative, proton, neutron, but there's a flipping of a charge, like in a battery, how you have a positive and negative. And they're saying, think of the energy as flipping that quickly, that you can ask that the energy in your body be flipped from negative to positive. And a lot of the energy will simply flip, and you can feel that shift because your energy is under your direction to a large degree. And so being able to say, please, flip the energy in my body to be as positive as possible, you'll feel this little uptick. And that you can also conduct the energy around you by asking that you be shielded from negative energy. Let's say you're
That's
going to
the
a hospital.
word.
Yeah,
Shielded, not
shielded.
protected.
Yeah, but you're going to visit a friend in the hospital and you want your energy that's, being positive and loving to come forth to your friend, but you don't want to absorb any of the fear that you're going to experience walking through the halls of a hospital. So you can imagine putting yourself in a protective bubble, and visuals help us hold an intent. And you and I've talked about how energy follows intent, and where you say where your focus goes and your awareness goes, your energy goes. All of that is so true. And so holding an intention to put yourself in a bubble kind of gives a visual cue to the universe. Here's what I want to happen energetically. I'm happy to beam out all my brightness. I'm not really interested in doing a trade, not really interested in absorbing any of that.
Yes.
And so when you do that before you go in, you're protected. You can also, in the midst of, let's say you're at work and you're not necessarily thinking you need to be shielded, but all of a sudden a coworker walks by and says, I got to tell you something really awful that happened to me. I got a speeding ticket and I didn't serve. And you're thinking, oh boy, here it comes, right?
Yep.
Just imagine dropping a sheet of glass in between the two of you. And it's that fast. And it makes such a difference, right? They can feel that difference.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in the middle of their rant. They're not going to notice, but it'll protect you. Now, when we forget to shield ourselves and we need to cleanse our energy afterwards, there's all different things. You talk about a car wash technique. I think we've been touched on that last time.
Yep.
Anything that is flushing energy out of your body. And if I've gone to a hospital or somewhere that has a lot of fear, a lot of negative energy, I tend to use something like imagine laying in a creek bed or a little river and on warm sand, and only my face sticks out of the water. And I'm like a sea sponge, and the water comes in the top of my head and out the bottom of my feet. And I just say, please flush me of any energy that is not healthy for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that could be some of my own if I was in the hospital and worried about my friend, right? That flush all of that out. And it's not that it's emptying you of energy. It's doing a lot of conversion, right? Changing the charge on it, but it does flush you of other people's energy. Because, we can go into a hotel room and go, oh, this doesn't feel right. Because you're feeling the energy of the people that were there before.
That's right.
Yep. And that is so, then people walk into a restaurant and go, I don't like this restaurant. Right. And maybe it's that the restaurant isn't good, but a lot of times it's just you walked into the cloud of negative energy that two people were just standing there impatient that they weren't seated yet. And you walked into that.
Well, I'm curious how you react, because I know how I react in antique stores and used furniture stores.
Yes. Yes. Well, because a lot of items will hold people's energy, especially if it meant something to them, right? A pen, basic big pen probably isn't going to mean anything, but when I go into antique stores, I actually sometimes will put my hand on the item and I can feel the age of it, feel how old it is, and I can feel how happy the people were that had them. I have an antique sideboard from the 1880s, and I love to put my hands on it, and people will say like, wow, I think that a lot of happy people owned that. And you can just, I don't know, it's just a very cherished item. It was well loved. And you can feel it, but you can also walk through those places and feel spirits that are unhappy, that are hanging out, that are really attached to a piece of furniture. And you can pick up those spirits, right? You can feel like kind of drained.
That's the way I feel. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do when you come out of a place like that?
Breathe in that fresh air and do the flushing, like you said. Absolutely.
Yes.
Have to. Yeah.
My spirit told me years ago that there's a lot of phrases that we use that are actually based on something, like cheering somebody up. We're literally trying to raise their vibration, right? If somebody's down, they're vibrating low. And one of those, believe it or not, is bless you or God bless you. They used to say that because they thought ill humors went in through your nose. So that if somebody sneezed, you should say God bless you, and that God would take those ill humors away, those germs away. But my spirit said that actually, if you ask God to bless you, it temporarily raises your vibration for a second, and it sort of ejects off a spirit that is there.
Oh, nice.
And it really works. And so it is the only thing that I'm told I'm allowed to do without someone's permission. So if I hear a baby in a restaurant crying, inconsolable, and I'll say, please bless that baby. And I'll just see this spirit lift off. And I'm like, oh, freeloader, right? Because the baby's born in a hospital, picked up with somebody's soul who's wandering around the hallways thinking, I wasn't ready to die yet. And so that baby just feels drained and unhappy and irritable and gets cleared. So when I say bless you to somebody because they sneeze, it's got two meanings. And sneezing is not an indication that you've picked up a spirit. That part was superstitious. But that knowing that you go to places where there are a lot of spirits. I went to New Orleans in January, and oh my gosh, they were everywhere. And then people found out I could clear them. And I'm like, you can clear them too. But people kept having me clear them because we would all go to a restaurant and people come back and we'd bring friends. And so there are certain places where you'll pick up more spirits that kind of like to hang out in your energy field. And it's not like Whoopi Goldberg where they're going to drop into your actual body, but they hang out in your energy field and it feels like a drain. You feel tired. You feel down.
This is a really good point because so many people are afraid of that happening. They call it attachments and it's scary. And you're just saying this is an ordinary thing and that you just clear it out.
Yeah. And people say, well, what about ghosts that have been here for 100 years? Eventually, if somebody doesn't cross over and chooses not to do that, again, it's free will universe, they learn to draw energy from the earth itself. But in the beginning, they're used to drawing energy the way we draw energy into our body each day through our energy field. So because they don't have the same kind of energy field, they stand right behind you or over, they're right in somebody else's energy field. So some of the energy you're drawing in is going to you, and some of it's going to fuel this astral entity. Different people call them different things, but that ghost, if you will, gets fuel. And most people pick up maybe one every couple of years, and it might last for a couple of days or a week, and then it goes on to the next person. Right. And so I don't have any fear of them because the universe doesn't create problems that don't have solutions. So it's just figuring that out. And so saying, I will bless myself and different people that I'm with sometimes whenever we leave the house as we come back in. And I know certain triggers. If I start yawning like several times and it's the middle of the day, I'm like, my brain all of a sudden is registering. There's like this downgrade of my energy. Why am I all of a sudden tired? I will bless myself, and usually I'll feel this little lift.
Tell me again how you bless yourself.
I just say, universe or God, please bless me. And I'm holding that intent that it just means just pop my energy up from it. And it sort of like ejects off that soul and just
In the
says, no,
military,
thanks.
eject. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was having lunch with somebody a couple of weeks ago and I saw this spirit come towards her and I just said, no. It just came in and then she stepped into her energy field and I just asked that she be blessed. And my friend said, oh, did you just feel that? I felt like this little shudder. And she goes, did you just clear somebody off me? I said, yes.
Um,
And but having that, again, doesn't harm you, but people, if they come in as a client and they say, I've just not felt like myself for the last 4 or 5 days. I'm negative. I'm down. I can't get my energy up. I can't even meditate because I feel like my energy is too heavy to lift. That's the first thing I say.
yeah.
Bless yourself.
Yeah. That's so funny because you read my book, and one of my main practices for connecting with higher consciousness is that acronym, the Bless Me Method.
Yep.
So
Yep.
easy to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
Wonderful. So what is going on in your world these days? Because usually it's there's a what is, things are connected. You're seeing, the same kind of thing coming up over and over.
Yeah.
What are the issues that you're seeing coming up?
So some of the issues I'm seeing coming up have to do with all the variants of COVID and how people are it's becoming, as viruses tend to do because they want to live, they get less lethal and more contagious.
Hmm.
And COVID is doing the same, right? And Western medicine talks about that a lot. But then sometimes people say, oh my God, I feel like I've had COVID 7 times. I'm like, you've had a cold 7 times, right? And so there's a little bit of reframing that I think because COVID was so scary for so long and we did have these fears, that there's some reframing of that I'm doing with people of like, and now sometimes their spirit, I'll say, well, is this COVID? And they're like, it doesn't matter. It's just a virus. And I'm like, oh, so now they're not even telling me if it's COVID or not.
Huh.
So what I've seen is there's 2 variations of COVID, and the one that's more like the original variation takes 4 to 6 weeks to clear it out of your bloodstream, even after the virus is killed. And that's why people say they have brain fog and they feel tired for weeks afterwards. And that is getting more and more rare. And the more common type of COVID is more like a cold, where as soon as you've killed the virus, you start feeling better. And it's more like a cold where within a week you feel fine.
And
And
I always advise people when you have a cold to not take ownership of that, right? Don't say, I have a cold now, suddenly it's going to hang around a little longer. How do you advise people in that regard?
so I say, go for periods of higher vibration because that's when your body is healing and you're supporting the healing process. But when you're sick, you feel down, right? Your energy will naturally vibrate low to your body's trying to conserve energy because some of it's going towards killing this virus or clearing it out of your bloodstream. And so I would say, take naps if you need to, do the things that allow you to rest and then vibrate a little bit higher and then rest and vibrate a little higher versus kind of lay on the couch and watch TV for hours and you're kind of at this low vibration, which is tempting. I agree. But to set yourself up to have some peak times to support yourself getting better. And then it's like you remember what it's like to feel well and your body starts reaching for that.
Beautiful.
Versus like you're saying, oh, I'm sick. And we just kind of cruise in that until we feel better. And we just feel victim to it and wait for ourselves to get better. Right? Instead of having those little peak times where we lift our vibration and say to your body, what do you need? Like we would say to a friend who is sick, what do you need? Do you need food?
Nice.
Do you need vitamin C? Do you need sunlight? Right? Sunlight is so undersold as such a cure-all. I've been told by many guides that we get energetic information, just like you get updates to your phone. We get energetic updates from the sun.
Oh, wow.
And there's coding, CODING, codes that come to us from the sun, and it informs our immune system.
So how do
And
you get the sun?
I garden outside all the time.
Hmm.
So I'm outside for at least 20 minutes a day. And they say 17 to 20 minutes. I don't know where that came from. It seems to be the magic number of how long you should be outside for that many minutes. You have doggies, you're probably walking them, so you're getting that, right? So having the sunlight hit you, even if you have sunglasses on, it still is giving you that information, giving your immune system that updated information.
Nice.
And I don't know if you saw when COVID first came out that they started running articles about during different times of plagues and Spanish flu and all these different things, when the hospitals would run out of room and they'd have to put cots outside, and the patients that were outside always healed faster.
Oh, wow.
And
Huh.
they said the only commonality was sunlight. And that's when they started putting more windows in hospitals, and they started having courtyards where people could go outside, and they started recognizing the value in the healing process of sunlight.
Very good. I love one of the things about having you on the show is all these little tips that we can all take away. So
So another,
what is your
okay.
moment by moment? I'm sure not every moment, but how do you interact with your own higher self, your spirit, and your guides? Is it when you sit to meditate or ongoing throughout the day? Do they tap you somehow and get your attention?
Yeah, I would say I always try to make time to meditate several times a day, even if it's 10 minutes here, 7 minutes there. And sometimes on the weekends, I'll sit for a couple hours at a time. And that's when I can really get kind of instructions on things, and they'll give me a sense of what's coming in the weeks ahead. But I will get the taps. I get like, it looks like little silver glitter that you can sometimes see out of your peripheral vision, where sometimes people say, oh, I felt like I was going to faint. I saw that, but then nothing else happened. Or people say they get a buzzing in their ears, or a slight ringing that just starts and stops. And all of those are signals of your spirit trying to get your attention. Most of the time, that is the universe kind of ringing your doorbell and trying to get your attention. And so I will have that, or I'll have a sense that there's somebody in the room with me. And then I just get quiet and kind of expand my energy. You do some of the breathing like you talk about in your book, right? Something that just lets you plug in. And I like being able to view our energy and the vibrational levels we go to almost like an elevator, right? And so if your fourth chakra is ideally where we vibrate, it's kind of where our body's born to run, is at that fourth chakra level. And if you go higher than that, you're speeding up or accelerating a healing process and slowing down the aging process. And when you vibrate lower than that, it's like driving your car around in first gear. It's not great for it, right? But it'll do it. And
Good analogy.
so I tend to pay attention to where I'm vibrating, and I use scent and I use music to impact my environment and notice where I'm vibrating.
Well,
So
how do people do that if they're not you and they don't? What does she mean to notice where you're vibrating?
okay, so picture, let's do this, and I'll do it. I'm gonna do this as an exercise for your listeners. Okay.
Okay, great.
So if you picture that your energy where it's vibrating right now is probably around the fourth chakra, because people are happy they're listening to you and your interview. So picture it's like a cork on the water. And now I'm going to ask you again, you can steer the energy around you. Just imagine the vibration. Just say to the universe, please raise the energy up to just above my shoulders and into my throat to the fifth chakra. And then, yeah, and then you feel it, right?
Yes.
so then you just picture raising the energy up to the middle of your forehead. And when you do that, you're now blending out with the universe, right? This is where we can tap into universal wisdom. So that if you want to kind of say, who else is in the room? Is anybody trying to get my attention? You just say, please help me raise the energy, or raise the energy in this room to the sixth chakra level, to the middle of my forehead. And the energy will raise. And then you just kind of look out, like you talk about in your ocean breathing, right? Where you look out in that softer view, and you just decide to be able to perceive what else is going on in the room. And so many people see it in that black and white way. I can do this. I can't do that. Right. And what I would say is everybody can do it to some degree. Start seeing it as a sliding scale and see what you can experience the next time you do it, this time you do it. Right. And don't limit yourself to, I'm either going to do it successfully or I'm going to fail. Right. Because
So why wouldn't you have people go to the crown or higher?
they can. But I think what we started talking about was, what if, like, taking a read of your environment, like if there's somebody in the room, I will raise up to the sixth chakra area and kind of feel, okay, who is here? Is there a guide here? Is it your spirit? Who's here? And then you can raise it all the way up above your head. And then you're going to be able to connect with your own spirit and hear messages from your spirit. But knowing that you can treat that like an elevator and go up and down. And the best way to build that endurance is by meditation and noticing where you're raising the energy. So when I first started doing this, my spirit said it's like building up energetic endurance. Like if you were going to lift weights at the gym, and you'd start off with a lighter weight and you'd move it up, and then you have to drop it down, and you'd build up to where you could hold your arms up for a long time. In the beginning, you can't hold your energy up for very long at that 7th chakra level. But if you do it, and the more times you kind of go up and down, and you're just going to build up that endurance.
I love the elevator analogy. That's one that I was using, well, last summer, I believe. And it's so perfect. And how instantly fear will drop us back down to the basement.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yes. And fear vibrates below that 1st chakra level, right? So as soon as you go, and that's why I always say people around the holidays, it's so easy to dip into negative energy. You're at a family gathering that quickly goes negative because everybody's there for 1st chakra reasons, like the family, so it's tribal. It's what we're supposed to do, is everybody's getting together for Thanksgiving. And then one wrong comment and everybody's in a bad mood because you're right next door to negative energy. So I always say, play music everybody likes. Try to get people in their heart chakra, because you can get family together from the heart chakra connection other than the 1st chakra connection. Right? And so that goes back to what we were saying before about controlling your environment and having music that vibrates at the heart chakra level. And to answer your question, how do you know where music vibrates, or how do you know where your environment is vibrating, is doing that exercise where you feel like you're just a cork floating on the water, and you put on some music that you know you love. And music that we know we love helps us vibrate at the heart chakra level. And music that's like oldies, that, 60s music that everybody likes, any music that has endured for a long time, like Beatles music, that always vibrates at the heart chakra level. And there's a few exceptions, like John Lennon's Let It Be vibrates at the 6th chakra level. It's very philosophical, right? There's some of Marvin Gaye songs vibrate at the 6th chakra, but mostly they're vibrating at the heart chakra level, right? Taylor Swift songs vibrate at the heart chakra level. It's why she's so popular and so enduring. And so vibrating at that heart chakra level, having nature sounds on. So I tend to play nature sounds a lot in the background. I use certain scents that make me go, right? And those are different for each people. In general, the scent of vanilla reminds people of warm cookies. And that's why realtors will burn, vanilla scented candles in your house when you're trying to sell your house. So any kind of scent that I use, a green tea incense that is inexpensive. Here, I've got some.
I went and got some after our last show. You told me about it. Yeah.
and it's clean, right? It has a clean scent to it. And so doing those things to impact your frequency of where you are, it helps you vibrate there and helps the space vibrate in that area. And I just think that makes all the difference in how we feel.
So would you say the goal is, this is a 2-part question. The goal is for most people to regularly maintain at the heart level, and where are most people most of the time?
So I spent a lot of time in my 20s traveling in Asia, and one of the sayings they have in China is Americans vibrate below the waist. And what they mean is that there's a lot of time spent in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd chakras, because the subjects that when we think about them, make us vibrate there are, shoulds, all the shoulds, what I should do and shouldn't do, power, money, sex, and power. That's 2nd chakra thought processes and subjects. And your 3rd chakra, we vibrate there when we're worried about how other people are seeing us and how we're seeing ourselves. And those thoughts occupy a lot of our day, right? And if you also go into the average drugstore, most of the aisle are medications for symptoms in that part of the body, right? Yeah. And so if, and the idea that we're vibrating there in an out of balance way, right? More negative thoughts than positive thoughts motivates us to vibrate higher. It's easier to be in balance and positive the higher you vibrate. So sometimes people say, well, I'm trying to figure out why I'm in my 2nd chakra and I'm out of balance. And I'm like, let's just go higher and see if you can just feel into the answer versus kind of standing there and grinding out the answer. And I'm going to sit here and work this like a math problem. I'm like, what if we just felt better? And then approach it from that higher perspective, right? So sometimes just lifting your vibration up gives you a different perspective.
And in my Bless Me method, the 2nd step, L, is lift your vibration. So you really are out of balance. Somebody's not feeling great. You're talking about playing nice music. Gratitude will get you there. Visualizing the cork rising up. If somebody's really down in the dumps and doesn't know what to do in that moment, how are we going to lift that vibration beyond what you've just shared?
So I always encourage my clients, start creating a toolbox of things to lift your vibration in different types of scenarios. So I have one of the things that melts me are videos of service people coming home and their dogs losing their mind, right? I will cry every time. And just the dog is just crying and crying and I'm just like, oh, and it makes me go to my heart chakra. I could be in the worst mood. I'm going to melt. I just can't help it. So I always email myself some of those and I keep them in a folder. And
Isn't that great?
And when the link expires, I'll go find some more because I know that will do the trick. And one where I'm feeling like people are asking too much of me and I can't get all this work done or any kind of overwhelm.
Yeah.
I have those videos of the babies who laugh and laugh and laugh and you can't help but giggle. That's what I use for those, right? So it's different reasons why I'm in a bad mood or vibrating low. And then I have kind of the appropriate tool, right? Hammer doesn't fix everything. No one music or video is going to fix everything. So know yourself and understand, like when I'm in this space, there's certain times where I'm feeling so overwhelmed. There's no music I'm even willing to listen to.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to put on nature sounds and just start noticing when I finally exhale, my shoulders drop. Now I'll shift. Right. And I had a couple once brought me their son who'd gone very dark. He was dressed in all black and he was listening to some awful music. Right. It was all, I think they called death metal. It was awful. And it was violent and it was people screaming and it was very, very low frequency.
Yeah.
And that rightly so worried the parents. And they brought him to me and they said, we've tried to like burn incense and he wants no part of any of this, raising his vibration. And so I tasked him with listening to a Spotify list that I was going to make for him. And I put on there Rolling Stones, things that vibrated in the second chakra. So that's not that far away from where he was, but that were empowered and in balance. So positive, strong, pulsing music. And, I'm like, I'm old, indulge me, listen to the Rolling Stones, right? And he came back a couple of weeks later. He goes, okay, that wasn't that bad. I'm like, okay. And his mom said, he's not wearing all black. I'm like, okay, we're on the move, right? And so then I just gave him, worked in a little more, he found a couple country songs he liked that vibrated to third chakra. I'm like, okay, we can do that, right? And we just sort of expanded his music repertoire and then started talking to him about his thoughts and his feelings and what led to him being a vibrational match for the low music. And then it wasn't his fault. It wasn't something he did wrong. He wasn't a bad kid. It was, you didn't notice yourself drifting down lower and lower until you were a vibrational match for some stuff that held you in a dark place. And so when people come to me and say, oh, well, I just suffer from depression, or I've always been this way. And I'm like, let's look at how many things you keep around you that hold you in that space. Friends that are really negative, friends that are paranoid, friends that are complainers. What are the things that validate you vibrating in this place that you don't want to vibrate in anymore? Mm-hmm. Right.
Is she great, everybody? I mean, just right to the point, but Christine, your understanding of human nature and the lack of judgment of it is beautiful.
I just think that everybody wants to feel better and everybody's going to make the highest choice from the options they can see. And my job and your job when we're working with people is, let me show you another option.
Yeah.
Right? Trusting that people will reach for it. If it's higher and it feels better, I don't have to sell you on it. Right. So people want to feel better. And it's the more we can learn about how to do it. I mean, you and I are always these perpetual students, right? We want to learn more. And it's just to be able to pay it forward and help that.
So how about examples of where you think to yourself, you see somebody doing something very human or something that's going to hurt, and give us some examples of when you feel like saying, ooh, if only they knew.
Yeah. I would say probably the easiest example are people that I have who are clients who start cheating on their spouse. And I think, oh, that's not going to take you where you want to go. That's not going to go. And not because I think that's awful, you're a bad person if you're having an affair. It's just having an affair is usually not about quality of the relationship. It's usually about something lacking within the person. They're not getting the reassurance they need. They're not getting fed something they need. And so they're looking outside of their relationship to get it. And even if it appears to feed them in that moment, it's not going to last, right? And then they'll either need a different affair or a different person. And so often people leave a relationship and then run off with the person they've had the affair with, and then that doesn't work out. Because it's still that chasing after something that people are hoping is going to deliver them to a better feel good, right? Mm-hmm. To feeling appreciated, to feeling loved, to feeling valuable. And so when I work with people like that, I always say, no judgment, keep seeing that person as long as you want. But let's do some other things and see if we can heal some of the places in you that are calling out for that love. And then usually they just go, yeah, I've kind of lost interest in that person.
So what are some of the things you do? That's really interesting.
So, well, I mean, every person is different. A lot of it comes down to what did you not get in your childhood, right? How did you not get validated? How did you not get seen and heard? Because one of the things I'll say is, okay, what is this man, what is this woman offering to you? One of the first things they say is, I really feel seen and heard by that person. I'm like, okay, where is your earliest memory of not being seen and heard? And it's usually childhood, right? And so then we go in and do some kind of the scripting of what the ideal parent would say in certain situations. And I'll say, tell me your 3 most painful memories of that. And then I'll channel their spirit of like, here's what the perfect mother or father would have said. And if you hear what the perfect parent would have said in that moment and you say it to yourself, believe it or not, the body stores the actual memory of what happened and the wished for memory. They blend together and you store the amalgam of the two in your body. So it upgrades the memory on a cellular level, like how you store it. And that's kind of all the inner family systems healing that therapists will do is based on that idea of you can hear what would have been ideal and it will mitigate the pain from how it actually went, which doesn't seem like it should work, but it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also looking at why the current relationship isn't meeting their needs and is that person flexible and wanting to change and wanting to grow with you. And one of the things we talk about themes, one of the themes that I think has been in my work now is when we are older souls, which your listeners are, when you're an older soul, you tend to grow a lot. You tend to evolve a lot in each lifetime, which means you're going to outgrow people. Mm. And so clients of mine frequently say, I feel like I've gone through a lot of friends. I'm always jealous of the person who said, I've been friends with her since the 3rd grade and I've had all these friends for 40 years and I don't have any friends for 40 years. And I'm like, I'm not surprised because the people you were friends with 25 years ago might have grown a little bit and you've grown a lot and you've probably grown in different directions. So it's not judging yourself for outgrowing relationships, but also being open and honest and transparent with people. And I have said to friends in the beginning of a friendship, hey, I've noticed I tend to outgrow some friendships. I have some people that I've been friends with for 15 or 20 years, but a lot of them, it's like this 5 to 10 year run and then it's done. And I'm just going to be transparent. I'll always tell you if I feel like our time is done. And the last person I said, I kind of feel like we've come to an end. She goes, I kind of feel that way too. I wish you the best. I said, I wish you the best too. And we were done.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And so just knowing that's a possibility, we're so used to relationships ending with a bonfire, right? There's something that happens that's awful, or this person gets their feelings hurt, or I just can't tolerate that person anymore. And I think that's culturally what we're used to. That things break apart. They don't just grow apart.
Huh.
Right.
And what we didn't mention in this episode is that you were trained and worked as an attorney for a while. So do you maintain any interaction with any of your former attorney colleagues? And how do they feel about the work you do now?
I have a couple people that I see, and it's so funny. So many of the women I went to law school in Southern California at USC, and none of us are practicing law anymore. Everybody went into something else.
Oh, wow.
And I think because especially once you start having a family and you want to, you don't, if you're not going to be on partnership track, you don't get the good cases, you don't get the good work. But a lot of women just found it to be so male energy dominated, left brain. And as they kind of softened, as they aged into their 40s and 50s, they're just like, yeah, I don't really care about that anymore. Those benchmarks of success aren't my benchmarks anymore. And so the people that I've stayed friends with from law school are doing their own thing as well. Nothing is different as what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's pretty different.
Yeah. Well, just like you, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what do you need to say so that we don't end the program and you say, oh, but I really wanted to talk about this or that?
So I would say the idea of taking care of your energy, which I know you mention a lot in your book too. And I have a monthly class called Your Energy Matters that just focuses on that, right? And so each month we just talk about different ways to cleanse yourself, shield yourself, and just the different things that impact our energy. And I just think as a culture, we're starting to really wake up to that more now. And so talking about, like last month, I talked about lending your energy out to other people. And what's the difference between lending your efforts versus lending out your energy?
Oh, talk about that.
Okay, so lending out your efforts is you're coming home and you notice your friend's trying to get a love seat through her front door, and you're like, oh, let me help you. And you run over and you help her, and then you're done. You come home, you don't think about it again. You lend out, that was you lending out your efforts. Lending out your energy is while you're in there and she's talking to you, she lets you know that her husband's been drinking a lot and she's trying to get him into rehab, but she doesn't know what she can afford. And you come back home and you're thinking about it and you do a little research and you start sending her places and you're really worried about those kids, that are in that house. Now you've sent some of your energy over there and it stayed there. And so again, the universe is perfect and in balance. And so that energy starts calling out to you. It's like a little chick peeping, right? So your energy that you left over there is calling out to you because she can't do anything with it. She can't steer it. It's not her energy to conduct. So you are a little bit drained. You're not able to create all the things you want to create because some of your energy is over here in the form of worry about your neighbor and what is she going to do and how many places has she called today, and I think she should have called the places right away, and I think she should, right? And we start getting into how we think the person should handle it. So worry is an indicator that you're lending somebody your energy. And so often we want a result more than they do, right? It becomes a higher priority for us than them. And now you're sending your energy over there and trying to nudge that person along.
So how do you get it back?
And so simply visualizing your energy is like a retractable vacuum cleaner cord and just calling it back. And you can just say, please return to me any energy, right? You can just use any visual you want of streamers coming back into your body. Like I'll sometimes use a maypole because I'm that old, right? A maypole with the streamers, and it's turning around and wrapping all the streamers back around. I'm calling all my energy in, all of that. Next month in June, we're going to talk about energetic cords that we set up between certain people and how they can be positive energy or they can be really draining energy or toxic, right? If it's somebody we're having a lot of disagreements with, and how to know when to sever those cords. There are people who've, been divorced for 15 years and still have an energetic cord with their spouse. I had a client when I was in Charlotte, came into the Charlotte office, and she talked about how her husband and her kept fighting, her current husband, because she had an old barn in the back of her property, and her first husband kept a car and some boxes there.
Uh-oh.
And she said, I haven't talked to him in 3 years. I don't know why my current husband is so upset about this. And I said, there's an energetic cord between you and him, and you feel like this is you still taking care of him. And so we talked about it, and she goes, okay, you're right. I'm ready to sever the cord. And we cut the cord, did little energy work, sent it back to him. And on her drive home from our session, the first husband that she hadn't talked to in 3 years called her and said, I've been thinking, I need to get my stuff out of your barn. She goes,
oh, I love it.
Okay. Came and got the stuff, done. Totally clean, positive. And on the opposite, I've had people cut an energetic cord and have the person call up and try to reestablish. Hey, I haven't talked to you. Do you want to get together? Are you not thinking about me? Like, they're used to being fed that energy, and it feels odd to be. So all of those sorts of things I think are important for us to know, because like I said, we want to feel better. And part of that is having all your energy to yourself and noticing, like you talk about in your book, like how much energy needs to be cleaned.
Right? But some people really want to help people. So some people, I can hear them right now thinking, but does that mean I don't give my energy to somebody? So
yes, but as soon as you're done with your efforts, you recall your energy.
That's it.
Because it's recognizing that if I send energy to you, it's just going to lay in a puddle at your feet. You can't conduct it. You can't move it. So now I've depleted myself because I don't have that energy to steer, but it's just sitting on your floor. Mm-hmm. Right? Our belief is that people feel supported, and especially if we love people, we don't want them to feel abandoned. And so we send our energy out and then we just leave it there. Right? And I'd rather, like I have a friend right now that's sick, and I touch base with her each day by text. And I said, I'm just sending you some love right now. And she's like, oh, I can really feel that when you send it. But I don't need to, even though I'm worried about her because she has pneumonia and all these things, I don't need to send energy and have it there. I'm really clear on my intent. I'm sending you some love right now. I'm sending you some energy. I'm praying for health for you.
Okay, so I see it then instead of a cord. I just got that. It's an aha for me what you just said. So I would send it from my heart and it would keep going. But to me, it's more like maybe there's a straw and I send a burst of it through the straw and that was it.
Exactly. Exactly. Good. Well done. Well done. Yes. You're sending energy as an intentional thing. I'm sending this now. Not I want to stay plugged into you so that I can feel every little thing that's going on with you. I mean, that's the mom whose kid is at school and he falls on the playground. She's like, I think my kid just broke his arm, right? Because we stay plugged in. So you're going to stay plugged into your husband and to your dogs. That's great, right? But you don't need to stay plugged in to me and to other people. I'm going to trust you that if you need my help, you're going to call me. I don't have to keep an energetic cord between us.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is I would always send it out and then it kind of comes back. But I like how it kind of has an end point and it goes out.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I love our interactions. When you come, everybody just always have that empty cup, right? There's always more to learn. Always more to learn.
Always, always. Yeah.
Wow. Any final words for us today? So much good information.
Just pay attention to how you feel and know that you can make more of a difference with it than you think. Right? It's that idea of we can impact how we feel by noticing where we're vibrating and how we can shift it. And I go back to those tools in your toolbox, right? I have music, I have videos, I have certain channeled books that I read that inspire me, right? Anything that makes me go, oh yeah, right? Life is good. Life is beautiful. There's way more love and beauty than pain and sorrow.
Amen. Yeah. So tell us about your website, what you have coming up.
So my website is christinelang.org. And coming up, I have my monthly class, Your Energy Matters. And I have some small group sessions. My private sessions are booked out for a year, but I have small group sessions of limited to 12 people. And everybody gets a couple questions answered from their spirit, get messages from your spirit. And I also help everybody meditate to receive a message themselves. And then I double check their answers and validate their answers for them with their spirit. And usually there's some channeled teachings and exercises that we do in that 2-hour block as well. And I'm going to be teaching some other healing classes and stuff coming up over the year. So as people get on the email list, they'll get notified of those.
Yeah. And you have some beautiful meditations and your book is called?
So my first book is called The Body Whisperer. Your Symptoms Tell Me Your Truth. And it talks about me being single. I'm remarried now, but being single and dating and raising 2 kids as a medical intuitive and being very sensitive.
But all those stories that you tell, the examples you give are just beautiful because we can all relate to those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you for the work you're doing in this world and the ripples that are going outward as a result.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's always delightful.
It's a joy. All right, everybody. Isn't she great? I hope you did like I did. I was writing notes the whole time. This stuff. Look out, world. Here we come. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here next week.
Hey, everyone. Before you go, be sure to check out the linked video, Actual Evidence of the Afterlife. This is Suzanne's recording of a full-length mediumship reading, and it is spectacular.